Hi, I'm Michelle from Michelle's Romantic Tangle, and we are making snap bags with measuring tapes from the Dollar Tree. My mom made hers from some orphan blocks she has had in her sewing room for years, and I made mine from a cute fat quarter that I bought at the Sisters Quilt Show. A lot of us don't like sewing zippers and will go to great lengths to avoid them, even though I learned how to install them theoretically properly in high school home ec. For a lot of years it was, I don't want to sew a zipper, I'm not going to sew a zipper, and you can't make me sew a zipper. And this bag is one of the things that I used to avoid sewing zippers until my daughter decided that she needed to go sew dresses and needed her mother to show her how to sew zippers. Thank you so much, Pinterest. This in reality is not that much easier than sewing a zipper once you figure out how zippers work. But for some things like knitting where you don't want to get your project caught in zipper teeth, or honestly, if you really don't want to sew a zipper, it is not a bad idea. We're using a tape measure for the closure. I got this one from the Dollar Tree. They have free coupons for tape measures with our purchase at Harbor Freight all the time. Don't go out and buy an expensive tape measure from the hardware store. These definitely are a lower quality and they probably won't hold up as long, but honestly, how many times are you going to snap your bag open and shut? And I've used this type of tape measure for Lego bags for my little boys, who I assume are going to open and shut their bags to hear the sound way more times than any of my stitching friends are going to do. So I have taken my fat quarters for the lining and the outside of the bag and cut them into a rectangle that is about half the fat quarter. I do not make these bags to specific measurements. I look at the piece of fabric I have and the scale of the print and decide what I want to do. When I fold this in half to be a bag, that'll be a good size for a pair of socks in progress or some little tiny stitching. I would, in a perfect world, have put batting in this bag, but we are stitching at the coast. Isn't that gorgeous out there? And I did not pack batting, and I do not feel like driving to Joann's to get batting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some fusible interfacing on the inside of the bag fabric, and that'll give it just a little bit of extra structure. I would have also, in a perfect world, put batting around the ruler when it goes into the bag casing. But again, I'm making this for myself. When I made them for my small children, I did everything I could to encase the potentially sharp edges of the ruler. And I haven't touched the sharp edges of these rulers. I'm just assuming that once you cut metal tape measure, it's going to be sharp. And we all know I'm on blood thinners, and Michelle tries very hard not to touch the sharp things, so proceed at your own risk. I have my lining fabric, my outside bag fabric, my fusible interfacing. I am going to layer these together with the edges all lined up. It's wonky for video purposes. Right sides of my fabric together, fabric fused to the outer bag fabric. It is not fused as tightly as I would like, but I'm not fusing it fusible interfacing to the ironing board that belongs to the resort because we don't want to buy them a new ironing board cover. If I was doing this at home and had brought all my supplies instead of the interfacing, I would probably have a layer of batting here. We're going to stack these together. We are going to sew it. We're going to leave about a 3-inch spot gap along the side to turn it right side out. To make it easier to get video of ourselves, we've just cut off a 4-foot long section of the measuring tape. Once you cut your first piece, you're going to lose that little end tab that keeps the entire tape from going back into the case. Once you open up this case, you are going to have 12 feet or whatever of measuring tape that wants to go everywhere. It is like a slinky that isn't inclined to stay stacked. So I don't open this until I am ready to deal with the whole thing. I have stored them in Rubbermaid or Ziploc bags until I get annoyed with dealing with it and throw it out and buy myself a new dollar measuring tape. Probably the best way to do this if you want to make a bunch of bags would be to cut this into 2-foot lengths and keep it in a drawer. This is easy to cut with scissors. We are going to measure our rectangle and cut 2 strips of measuring tape an inch shorter than the width of the bag. Go ahead and cut. And then I rounded off the ends of mine a bit just to minimize those sharp edges. I will post a link to the tutorial I did a few years ago when I made the snap bag for my son. For that one, I encased the entire tape in a tube of batting before putting it in the bag itself. That was complete overkill. If I had brought tape with us, I might put a bit of tape over the ends of this, but I don't. This is not contractor grade measuring tape. I don't think this is going to work its way through the seam allowances and seams of my bag. Now we are going to make the casing for our measuring tape. I do not know if these are all a standard width. I measured mine. It is about 3/4 of an inch wide. So I am going to fold this over. I am going to give myself maybe 1.25 inches. The measurement isn't critical, but you do want it the same on both ends of your piece. So I'm going to make it about 1.25 inches and just sew a straight seam down there to make my casing. Now that I have the casing made for the measuring tape, I am going to slide the tape in on each side. And I always struggle to remember which side goes towards the inside of the bag, whether it's the concave or the convex side of the tape, and what convex and concave, if they are the curvy in or the curvy out point. Our vocabulary words for the day. So the part of the tape that curves out that doesn't have numbers on it will be up towards the inside of the bag. You're going to slide them into the middle of this channel that we created, and it will go in there easily. Then you're going to fold it in half with the lining of your bag facing out. The curved part is going out towards the lining. And we are going to sew 1/4 inch down either side. Because we have cut our ruler 1 inch shorter than the width of the bag, there should be plenty of room for it in there that it does not get into our seams. Please don't sew the metal tape measure with your sewing machine. I did that on my first bag and my sewing machine did not like that. Maybe if you have an older 1970s metal sewing machine, it won't object as much, but it just seems like one of those things we shouldn't be trying to run our sewing machine needle through. Now we're going to turn the bag right side out. And it does take a little bit of finagling to get the zipper. We're turning the bag right side out, and it takes a little finagling to get the measuring tape right side out sometimes, but you just work with it and there you go. In case you didn't notice, I cut a lot of this out. So we have got our bags. Mine is from a fat quarter and Mom's is from some orphan blocks. And they snap like they're supposed to. These bags are, like I said, I don't know that this is actually that much easier than sewing a zipper if you have the zipper fit for your machine and if you know how to sew a zipper. They're an alternative. They are a way to avoid zippers if you are dead set against them. For some things like knitting, there is nothing to catch your yarn on. These are not as secure as zipper bags. If you fill this full of stuff and you flip it upside down, tiny things are going to fall out. I already noticed on this one that the edge of that tape measure is right up pressed against the edge of my fabric. I don't know how that is going to wear long term. I am honestly not worried about it because I'm going to keep some knitting in this bag If it frays over time, I'll repair it or I'll make another bag. I would have, if I was at home and had my full sewing room, cushioned these ends with some masking tape or some batting. If you want to see the instructions for the bag I made for my son, where I give full measurements and the tube of batting, I will put a link to that blog post here. Let me know, have you made snap bags before? Do you use them and find them useful? I think these would be great for reusable gift wrap or for putting a little present in. I think they'd be great for toting around makeup or small things you want to put in a bigger bag. This would be a great little tool bag for inside a zippered project bag. Let me know what you think, and thank you for watching. I'm Michelle from Michelle's Romantic Tangle, and I will be back with you again soon.